Welcome to Boxing Profiles. I'm your host, Tony Prince, and my co-host today is Theo Arjona.
Hey guys.
All right, let's talk a little bit about everything that is boxing. As you know, Theo, I went to the Devin Haney Regis Prograis fight,
Nice. Nice.
and it was. Did you see it?
I saw a little bit of it, snippets here and there. I saw the knockdown, and we could get into that
Mhm,
later. But
mhm,
I pretty much predicted it, and it was pretty much a good showing from Dave.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Devin looked great in that particular fight. In fact, I think he looked. That's the best I've seen Devin when he's been fighting.
Mm.
I went to the Lomachenko fight. He looked good there, but the Regis Prograis fight, man, he learned so much from the Lomachenko fight until
Sure,
for the Regis Prograis fight. I mean, he was just. I mean, he was sharp. His skills was everything was there. So.
I agree. He took what he did from Lomachenko being a southpaw, and so
Mhm,
he just incorporated that into this fight too. So it's a good
mhm,
showing. It's a
mhm.
good showing for the
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
Happy for him.
I mean, uh, there's some other great fights out there that I think that Devin can um, he could be. He say there'd be really really good fights, such as you got like Rolly Romero that's out there, who's a champion at 140. You got Tank Davis, who's a champion, and then there's also Subriel Matias. Uh,
Bias, yes.
that now, wow, that
Hmm.
guy. Woo, woo. I mean,
I agree. That guy
wow.
is yes, he's on his way up too. But then again, Tank,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tank
Now,
is
when it comes to Tank Davis, I mean, what can you say
what can
about
you say
Tank?
about Tank, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if I was promoting Devin Red now, I would keep him away from Tank for a bit,
Hmm.
then go after Tank. I mean, he just jumped to 140, so I
Yeah.
mean, I think Tank is gonna move up, but I do hope they clash at 140.
Well, yeah. I think that would happen. Another fight that they were talking about. They were saying Mario Barrios, who is a Mario Barrios and Devin Haney would be a good
That'd be a
fight.
good
Which
fight.
Mario Barrios moved up to 147,
Hmm.
but
He can come back
he
down.
used to be the 140-pound champion at one point too. So there's a lot of good fights that's out there for Devin, and being that Devin is so young, I mean, sky is the limit for this guy.
Hey, Ryan's
So,
still there too. And
oh
Garcia is
yeah,
still
I
there.
forgot
Ryan's
about.
still there.
Yeah,
He at
yeah.
140. Also, Shakur's there, but Shakur did not look good in his last fight. I hate to say it, but it
Oh man.
was.
He-
Let's
he-
talk about that later. I know you were going to bring it up, so
yeah. Well, Shakur. Don't get me wrong. I
I
love
love
what
the guy
Shakur
too. I
does.
love the guy too.
Yeah, I love him. I love what he does in the ring. However, his last fight, he did not look good. I think I heard something about he may have broken his hand or something.
Something
He
happened in
broke.
training. It did not look
Yeah,
like the Shakur I thought it was going to show up. Totally different.
yeah. I mean, and what he won the championship with 40 punches.
Hmm.
It's kind of, I think
Mm,
that's unheard of. It's
yeah,
it's just
totally.
unheard of.
Pick the belt. I mean, with 40 punches is. I don't
Yeah,
want to badmouth or anything like that, but hey,
yeah.
it
I
happens.
mean, when I look at boxing today, there's a lot of great fighters that are out there.
Oh, for sure.
And what I want to see is again, I'm from that golden era where I seen a lot of the greats.
Mhm.
And this generation of fighters that they got really good fighters, and they all could be great. But the big thing that I'm seeing that for me is they're afraid to let that O go.
You can say that, yes. I
You
mean,
know.
back in when you say the golden era, I mean, look at the talent pool back then. They were fighting every other week, so
Mhm,
it was pretty much, they trained hard, they fought hard. Because they knew they were going to fight the next week. The next week after
mhm,
that, there was no downtime in between. There was no rust to be formed.
mhm,
They
mhm,
fought all the time. So of course, when you
mhm.
fight all the time, you know your your way of training is totally
Yeah.
different than how the fighters train now.
Yeah, yeah, and the one thing that I've noticed from the fighters from that particular era is that they had strong legs, and so that they could be on their toes. But we're talking also 15 rounds of boxing
Yes, yes, that's what I
opposed
meant too.
to 12 rounds of boxing,
Or
which
10.
is a whole nother breed of fighter. When you stop and you look at it, 15, 45 minutes to what they do now, what, 33 minutes or something like that. So it's a huge difference. Those few minutes make a big difference. Huge. That's huge, you know?
And the fighters
So,
back then wanted to put maximum damage in the least amount of time. They didn't want it
mhm,
to go 15 rounds. They
yeah,
wanted it to be done right then and there. So
yeah,
once they saw an opponent hurt, they tried to go for the kill. And
yeah,
nowadays I see when somebody gets hurt, they trying to coast to get the point.
mhm,
So
yeah,
I get it. Get their
yeah.
career going.
Mm, mhm.
Longevity.
And yeah, and which makes a lot of sense. Um, one of the things that I liked about the 15 rounds was the fact that the fighters of old or the of in yesteryear, you could be winning the first half of the fight,
Correct. There was a
and then the
storyline.
fight just turned around, and next thing you know,
You had a storyline, you
you
had adversity. Somebody gets
yeah,
hurt in the first, and to see that fighter come back,
yeah,
for 15 rounds.
yeah,
The only thing close that came to that was when Pacquiao and Marquez fought, and
hmm,
Pacquiao pretty much had Marquez out for the count in the first round.
yeah,
What happened
hmm,
was Marquez got back up, boxed for like 12 rounds into a draw. So I mean, that was the closest thing that I can
yeah,
think of
that you could think of, yeah,
that had a lot of
and
adversity, had everything in it besides the
yeah.
Trinidad fight,
I've
Trinidad Barbies
seen
fight.
so many fights, man, that where one fighter's winning and the other fighter comes back in the second half of the fight, and it
Mhm.
makes for a great, great fight. And it's like when you see something like that, you always want more, 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 more.
Oh yes,
But
totally. I mean, when you talk about comebacks and ebb and flow, like rest in peace, Diego Corrales, Jose
mhm,
Luis Castillo. That round,
yeah,
the end of the fight
yes,
was amazing. I thought
yes,
Diego was out on his feet, came back, knocked him out. I
knocked him
mean,
out. Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
the
yeah,
storyline and the way it sets up, the way fighters go through adversity, the technical aspects of the
yeah,
fight. It's totally amazing.
mhm,
That's what I miss
yeah.
from boxing nowadays.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and those are the moments to see, the Corrales Castillo fight.
mhm.
Those are the moments that make boxing so great, and
Oh,
those are the moments that we want to see again with
again,
these younger fighters
yes.
now. You know,
We want to see
and
the Chavez Taylor fights. We want to see, the
yeah,
trilogies, the Hagler
yeah,
Hearns. We want to see that again. It's
yeah, hmm,
let's try to bring it back, but it's hard to when you don't have a talent rich pool.
yeah,
That
yeah,
and how they all train that way. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. What's
but
amazing about that is since you mentioned even the training aspect of it was completely different.
mhm,
It's just huge. I mean, the way they did it naturally, opposed to the way they're doing it today.
with the
Um,
technology, with
yeah,
like vitamins, and I mean not the quote unquote, like the steroids or anything like that. It's a clean sport
hmm,
still, but they didn't have all like the vitamin nutrients that they do nowadays.
right,
They
right,
didn't have all that. I mean, it's pretty
yeah,
much protein and cardio and old school,
yeah. Old school, yeah. A lot
eating
of the old
and
schools, yeah. There was there's a thing that I seen. It's kind of funny. I'm one of the kids in the gym. We were watching the video, and back in the old days, they had this great big, huge speed bag. It was a monster speed bag. But what that did was, they hitting the bag like this, and you see that, and you're like, what in the world is he hitting? Why is that bag so big? It's what it did for your body. It's what it did for your arms, and your punching power
correct.
was the key. And like you said a little bit earlier, that those guys were killers. They were monsters. Each and every one of them, they were monsters and killers, and they were just
Go at it.
unbelievable
Heavy
to watch
bag
these
work.
guys
Yep.
fight.
I
You know?
mean the mentality back then towards now. I mean, when you look at boxing back then, it was you didn't know if you were going to get knocked out the next week. So
Yeah.
you always had to try to like knock the guy out. You got knocked out. It was eat or be eaten.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like trying to get a fight, even trying to get an amateur fight, trying to get your name known. Especially with all the networks not covering boxing as much as they do UFC or MMA,
Yeah.
is the problem right now. I mean,
Yeah.
Heavyweight
Yeah.
boxing used to be the I Ching. You used to be the baddest man in the on the planet if you were the
Yeah.
heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
But we lost all our heavyweights. All our American heavyweights went
Yeah.
to football or
The
ball
football, yeah, yeah,
sports.
basically.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a time when we can hear when he said, what was it? Muhammad Ali used to say, "Who's the heavyweight champion of
Of
the
the
world?"
world. Yeah,
Everybody knew who it was.
exactly.
Now, if I ask that same question today, who's the heavyweight champion of the world?
You didn't
Unless you are
know.
in boxing,
You wouldn't know Tyson Fury is a champ.
exactly,
You know.
exactly, and that's the difference between then and now. But I mean, this is it's a great conversation to
We
kind of
haven't talked in a
compare.
while. Yeah. So, what was your
Yeah,
take on the whole Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight? How do you feel about
wow.
Francis
You know
Ngannou?
what? I actually Ngannou won that fight,
I
bro.
think he did too. I
Ngannou
think
won
he
that
did. He
fight, and
totally did. For his
if I'm
first
correct,
amateur fight, he beat the pound for pound king. I mean,
yeah,
well,
yeah. Well, isn't he a professional MMA fighter
he's an MMA fighter, yes, but it's his first fight in legit
in
glove
boxing?
boxing. Yes.
In boxing,
That's what
yeah,
makes his
yeah,
feat so like amazing.
yeah,
Because it's
and
been
that's the
done
thing.
before. I mean, you had Floyd and
Right.
James Toney coming over to the UFC, and he got pretty much ankle picked and choked. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, this is the legit, boxing
yeah,
where Francis crossed over and
yeah,
he put him on his ass. I mean, he perfect counter
hmm
left hook, right? Was it a left hook?
yeah,
I think it was a left hook.
yeah, yeah. It was a left hook. Yeah,
Hmm.
hey, put him down, and that just goes to show you, you could be a world champion, and another fighter from another sport. Yeah, he could put hands on you very, very easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's why you can't really underestimate anybody from other pugilistic sports. You gotta stay on your
Whether it be
game and all.
kickboxing, yeah. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
striking sport.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah. In fact, if you stop to look at it, we go back. Let's look at Troy Dorsey, who
hmm
was a professional kickboxer.
hmm
Then he got in. He went and came into professional boxing. He became a world champion in kickboxing, and then he became a world champion in boxing.
hmm
So, I mean,
that's hard.
for having guys to be champions in two different sports, that's saying a lot.
I agree.
That's
I
big time.
I mean,
That's some big
to
time
me,
stuff.
like the mental of it. I mean, another perfect
Yeah,
example is Izzy Adesanya,
yeah,
the kickboxer who crossed over into the UFC
yeah,
MMA, getting grappled and stuff. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
he still took his striking sport into the ring because it's like MMA fighters. They all thought that he'll just take him down, but you still start the round standing. So I mean,
Exactly.
it's hard
Mhm.
to if you could. It's hard to take a person down. Then of course they're going to use their number one tools they've been training with
Mhm.
forever.
Yes.
And Izzy's
Yes.
like low leg kicks and his
Yeah.
punches
Mhm.
became a good champion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you think that boxing needs to do to get back to what it used to be? You think? What do you think?
What I think is it needs the network coverage again. It needs coverage from not just local TV, but streamers and anybody that could put their names out there. Because right now we lost HBO. When we
Mhm.
lost HBO, we lost a lot of the storylines and a lot of the fighters. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, Showtime is still there, and I heard, hate to knock on wood, I heard Showtime's on its way out too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once we lose Showtime, then we're going to lose all coverage on boxing, and
Yeah.
it
Well,
hurts. It hurts. So
yeah,
in order
it
for it to
does.
come back, we need that network coverage, or we need somehow some type of avenue to get shine on these fighters, to have their
Mhm.
storylines told, to have them. I mean, the last biggest fight was, I think, what, the Errol and Crawford,
And Crawford, yes.
because that was
Mhm.
the last. If you think about it, the last network pretty much
Yeah.
built up their careers. I mean, to
Yeah.
have them into the ring and then that was it. I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
super fights anymore because there's no networks building their storyline anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Before, I
Well,
mean, when you look at the like Sugar Ray Leonard, he came, or Oscar De La Hoya, they came straight. The coverage was there from the Olympics. And
mhm.
so you go from the Olympics and you have all these eyes watching you. Then you go local, you had USA Network and you had everybody, just waiting for you to fight again. And then you get
Mhm.
to the big networks, which is the HBOs and the Showtimes, and then now you're in pay per view. It's not
Mhm.
like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. There's no more
Yeah,
outlet
it is. It is
for
sad
boxing.
because now, I mean, we still have we still currently have what is it, ESPN, and we've got Top Rank. I think that might be, and they still cover
They
Top
still
Rank.
cover Top Rank a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah,
right now.
ESPN, yes. The
Yeah,
Zone is out
so
there too, but
yeah,
they're gonna lose. I mean, they still have their superstars, but then it's not built from like you see them from TV every Friday night.
right,
So that's
right.
what everybody wanted to watch. It's like, okay, every Friday night or every Tuesday night, you
Yeah.
watched a certain fighter. You knew he was going to be on a card. You saw him like fight two, three
Hmm.
times a
Yeah.
year. Then you see him on the big show. Then you see him
Right.
like on
Yeah.
HBO. You see him on Showtime, and then you're like
Hmm.
hyped for him. Next thing you know, they
Right.
go out for a title, and then you're just like, you have the hero, right?
Right. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's kind of tough,
It's
man.
not like that
It's not like
anymore.
that
But
anymore.
what would be nice is if we can get a if we can get a one of these streaming service, or someone who has a streaming service, to put on fights like Friday night fights, or
Correct.
I mean, even if it's like um, twice a month,
Hmm.
but you have something that you can look forward to with all these up and coming fighters like they had. They used to have the fights back in the day from the Blue Horizon,
Yes,
and
the
I
Blue
watched
Horizon.
I watched Bernard Hopkins come up
Hmm.
from from the Blue
The Blue
Horizon.
Horizon, Philly. Yeah,
Yeah, and a whole host of other fighters come up out of that, the
that's the
Friday night
venue
fights.
where you're looking down onto the
Yes,
ring.
correct.
Yes,
Yes,
I
yes,
remember
yeah.
that one too on
And it was
USA. Yeah,
amazing, just the view itself, and to watch all those fighters from that particular area. And it was in Philadelphia.
Philly. Yeah, the Blue
Yeah,
Horizon.
and it was just amazing to see it. And now if we can get someone, like I said, another streaming service that can put on something like that, I think that would is going to capture the attention of boxing fans pretty much everywhere. If somebody that could do that, man, it's just that would be just amazing, man.
I
I
agree.
mean,
I totally agree.
yeah,
If they got the footage back up there again, I'm sure it'll
yeah,
come back. But then you have to like wonder why it just
yeah,
like faded. I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't. Could it be the corruption of boxing too? Could it be the politics of boxing? Could it be people waiting for like a big super fight? I mean, I love technical fights. That's my thing.
right.
The sweet science and hit and not get hit. But
Hmm.
then people want to see blood. They want to see people get knocked the f out, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, you don't have that knockout artist out there anymore.
right.
You
Well,
don't
no,
have.
we do have one guy,
Okay,
which is Tank Davis.
Hank. Okay,
Yeah,
I
well,
take that back.
I gotta say he's about as close to anything that I've actually seen that's out there as Tank Davis, as far as when I'm looking at boxers in America. You
Pure
know,
like pure
Y-
knockout artist. Say like
yeah,
something
yeah.
close,
I mean,
dynamic.
the last
Mike.
pure knockout artist that we actually seen was Iron Mike
Mike.
Tyson.
That's Mike.
That was the oh man,
Yeah.
was he a monster? You
Everybody
know?
goes back to that, but then you think like that was
Yeah,
over 15, 20 years, 30 years now. So
yeah,
when you look at that, it's like to have a knockout artist that's like dynamic like that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't even have to be as dynamic as Mike. I mean, you had
yeah,
boxers in other divisions that were like knocking people out. I mean, your
yeah.
Nigel Brennans,
Hmm.
you had a whole
Yeah,
bunch of like Gerald McClellans. You
yeah,
had
yeah. Yeah, we
just
at one point Julian Jackson.
Julian Jackson. That's another one.
Yeah, you
Yes,
know, yeah. I
yes.
mean, there's just so much that's out there that we've seen that some of the younger kids, that are in boxing fans that they haven't seen, and some of them don't go back and do their homework and look
Well,
back and
hopefully they're watching right now, and then they go
yeah,
and YouTube these guys because the
yeah,
way they punched through their jaws,
yes.
amazing, amazing. They would just
Yeah,
KO
it was
people,
just amazing.
knocked out
And
standing up, knocked out
yeah,
standing up.
and boxing was so exciting at that particular moment. When you seeing these guys, they putting in that work, is just amazing.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
it is
I mean, we
amazing.
could go
Just
back and talk about all the golden era of boxing and everything, but
yeah,
you're right about the state of boxing now. It's like, what do we
yeah,
do to bring it back? And
yeah,
it's kind of tough when the promoters don't see the money.
yeah,
The butts are not in the seats to watch these fighters, partially
yeah.
because there's no coverage on them. That's all I
Hmm.
can say. There's no coverage on them.
And I guess that's the first thing that has to happen, even with all the podcasters, is we got to get that coverage back on the fighters again. You
Totally.
know, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you get the coverage on the fighters and people start knowing who these fighters are, then I think the fans will come out Let's just take like for this particular area, like San Francisco,
Northern
for the
California.
Devin Haney fight.
Okay.
Yeah, Devin Haney fight. The fans came out to watch Devin fight, and it was sold out, and it was amazing. I mean, that arena was it was full, dude.
He
I think it
gained a
was over.
lot of steam from the Lomachenko fight, so I mean,
Yes, yes, he did. Yes,
so
yes,
that's why I think, and plus he was a local kid. I mean, he was what, in Oakland, correct? So I mean, he
yeah.
pretty much that's the next city over.
Hmm.
So of course he's gonna, pack the house with, like they know who he is and where he came from, the local kid. So they
Yeah,
came out to support and it was packed. A very
yeah,
nice
yeah.
event for him.
Yeah, and it was actually pretty cool that everybody came out to watch him and support him. Like it's like a you heard of Vacaville, California, correct?
Hmm.
Okay, well they have a they have a center that's over there. It's called the George Duke Center,
George Duke.
and yeah, so the George Duke Center back in I think it was in the it's like in the either the late 30s, early 40s. George Duke was the middleweight champion, and he was a part of that program that's over there, and that program is still going today.
Very nice.
And and he used to fight also in the Bay Area
Of course.
a lot. So, for that to be that, something that's almost 30, 40 years old, something like that program, or maybe even older, to still be there,
Hmm.
it's amazing. I mean, it is just amazing for that to be there, So
I agree.
I'm just stoked about boxing, period, and a lot of the stuff that's going on in boxing. But then again, I'm still concerned about the coverage is going away. I heard something like Amazon might be the next people to start taking over a lot of the boxing things, but that's more of an app service. And then how is that going to work when it comes to if they're even going to do pay-per-views?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, and I heard something like that when I was at the press conferences and I was talking to one of the other podcasters, and he said that he thinks that everything will be going to the apps. So if you
The
have an
streaming
app,
services,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, that's the only outlet they got left. I mean, in reality, I wouldn't like put it by like cable TV because cable TV's on its way out. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of people that canceled their cable TV and went with just straight streaming services nowadays
mhm,
because that's the future. And
yeah,
so,
yeah,
I instead of paying the middleman, the cable companies for that, they could just stream the service, which I think people now are just going straight to streaming, which is a good thing,
yeah,
but then a bad thing, it's like trying to get your
yeah,
name out there, get started is tough. Before you
yeah,
just have to go to a local cable company or local news station and put on an event and hey, here you go. The,
yeah,
the power of technology right now, and the power of speed of the internet is like the
yeah.
next thing. That's the
It's the
future.
next thing, yeah. And it's like I said, I'm okay. So as I'm a coach, so
Hmm.
as for me and trying to market your fighters is huge, especially now, whereas like you got like I said, you got these big channels and things like that, they folding up. But yeah, you could do it on social media, and but it like anything else, it's work.
I
It's
agree, but then at the same time, though, it's like, how can I say? I mean, the Paul brothers. I mean, they started a social media, and they're out there
Mhm,
challenging, and they're getting the big money fights. So everybody sees it, and they try to go off of what that is. I mean, maybe that's the new way
mhm,
of putting people in the arenas.
yeah,
But
mhm,
calling out real fighters, when you're like a top, at only like 10 fights on your card in your career, and you're trying to go after the big dog. I mean, I understand. I mean, money is money, and people want to see you lose. And well, you're going to play heel, then that's
mhm,
how it works. I mean,
yeah,
that's why I feel kind of bad for like the real, like the real fighter that wants to like start from the ground up, and they see like social media and they go to the social media all the time thinking that's the way. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be that way. Before it used to be like your coach and your promoter that's carrying you through that. Your promoter is supposed
right,
to do that, but now with social media, it eliminates the promoter press.
yeah,
So I don't know where it's gonna go nowadays, and
Yeah, yeah,
how
and
do we
that's the
adapt
whole
to
thing.
that? Do you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. Exactly. How do we adapt to it? And it's like the fighters has gotta build that name. You know what I mean? And they pretty much, I mean, if they're an amateur fighter, they're gonna have to build their name big time on social media in order for people to even pay attention to them. I
that's
mean,
hard, yeah,
because
because you have a bunch of like YouTubers that are turning fighters, and they started that,
yeah,
and they're putting people want to see it.
yeah,
People do want to see them. Some of them
yeah,
want to just see them lose, but when they start taking it serious, and they're saying that they're legit, then that's the way to do
yeah,
it. But I don't know.
uh,
I don't know how I feel about adapting to that. I mean, if I had a young
yeah,
fighter coming into the ring and I'm training them or whatever, I mean, I don't know if I would do the whole social media thing and start, calling
mhm,
people out, I mean, but then again, that's how Ali got his name. I mean, if you really think about it,
mhm,
he started by
true,
calling people out, being that confident, calling the round he
yeah,
was going to knock him out in, and things like
yeah,
that. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
does put butts in the seats, and people
yeah,
want to see you lose, and he proves
yeah,
them wrong every time. So I think
yeah,
that's what the Paul guy is doing right now.
yeah,
I mean, he's calling everybody out, and of course, they're like over the hill fighters, they're ex MMA fighters, and he's calling
right,
them out, and they
mm,
have more experience in them than him, and then he ends up turning the tides on them, and he's like, "Hey, look, he's legit, and he knocked you out, and
yeah,
you got to give
mhm,
him respect there." It's like, hey, he's doing his part.
mhm,
He's really
mhm,
like making it competitive.
mhm,
Though
yeah,
as much as you hate him, because the way
yeah,
he came in there, the way he made his
yeah,
name, you still got to respect the fact that he's putting in the miles, putting in the work.
yeah, yeah,
He's performing when he needs to perform.
right,
Bottom line
yeah,
is like he got the win,
mhm,
I got
yeah,
the loss, and so
yeah.
hey, it's a win-win for him because if he loses, oh, he's still a YouTuber.
You
You
so
know, what I
you
mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's like it's like a win-win regardless. So it's like
yeah, yeah, and at some point,
smart,
even
smart.
though yeah, he's smart, but at some point, he basically is a professional fighter.
I agree. And
You know,
what I
at some
mean,
point,
of
you
course,
know.
of course. I mean,
So
he's like fighting under the unified rules. I mean,
right,
he's getting checked before. He's
yeah,
not. This is not like an amateur sparring events. These are
hmm
like the real gloves, the real weigh-in, the real,
yeah,
the real deal. So
yeah,
to get through
yeah,
that, yeah, you got to.
hmm
Yeah, he got his license and everything. So I mean,
yeah,
he's a legit
yeah,
fighter. He's a legit
yeah.
fighter.
Yeah. And so the other thing is, okay, all right, Jake, you've been knocking people out. Don't you
hmm
think it's time to step up and challenge for a title? That's what I would tell him.
But the angle he's using right now, he does it to
Yeah,
play heel. He does that
exactly.
exactly to
Yeah,
play heel because he's like, I ain't gonna step up. I'm just gonna, be that heel and call out, all the lower name or the over the hill fighters, then fights
uh-huh.
that he could win,
Yeah.
and people hate it. So when he does step up,
hmm
million dollars here, $1 million there, $1 million
I think
everywhere.
he's kind of making that on the YouTube alone.
Correct. I mean, that's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. He
and so the
he's
younger fighters see that and they're gonna try to
mhm,
copy that. And
yeah.
and that's what boxing is nowadays and whatever. Hey, maybe they
You
should
know,
start calling people out
yeah.
on social media and starting as a YouTuber and have them follow their careers through YouTube because I think that's what happened. Remember how I was saying earlier about storylines? I
hmm
mean, Paul made his own storyline and he had all the
Correct.
followers before, so all he had to do was just like, okay, set it up. He came from money, so it's just he
hmm
needs a venue and an outlet and someone to fight. He already
hmm
has the followers. They all want to see him and they're all like, for him. Of
Yeah.
course. And
Yeah.
then to
Yeah.
piss
I
the
mean,
boxing,
he's
to piss the pure boxing guys off, that's even more
uh
people that want to tune in and pay money to see him fall.
to see him fall.
So
Yeah. 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 And
yeah,
I guess that's what put butts in the seats. You know.
exactly. I mean Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean when he was Pretty Boy Floyd and he was knocking everybody out, he was a spectacle to see. But
hmm
when he turned Money Mayweather is when he turned heel.
Yeah.
And he was just purposely getting people to hate him so he could come into the ring and
Yeah.
see him get knocked out, or knowing that he wasn't going to get knocked out because of his pure skill.
Right.
I mean, when he's
Mhm.
sitting on the 24/7s and he's fanning money out everywhere, and
Yeah.
him and 50 Cent are hanging out and they're partying and in the
Yeah.
club and stuff, and
Yeah.
they all want to
hmm
see him. It's like, I want to see
Well,
this guy fall and da 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 da, and
yeah.
Yeah,
I have
made
to
you hate.
say that he is a you know in that aspect of him being the bad guy or the heel. He is using a great marketing ploy because
Mhm.
he's with 50 Cent. He's showing all the money. He's showing all the gold and
Of course.
the diamonds and all that stuff. So yeah, what it does is it makes people hate him because he's in. People get envious of that.
Of course. That and
They get
the
envious of it. Say, what is this clown doing? Or what is he doing? And it's like, dude, I don't want to see that. I mean, I mean, you
totally,
flaunting it, and it
totally
pisses people off.
pisses
Yeah,
people off. Totally pisses
yeah,
people off. They want to see him get knocked out so bad.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the drama that he started with 50 and the drama he started with his own dad, and
yeah,
we're
yeah,
like, "Oh wow, he really and then what's going on in the Mayweather house, and
yeah,
I think that was like all a show. I mean, it had to be. I mean, it's like
yeah.
because his dad was right there for him, and when Uncle Roger was incarcerated because of that whole thing with I forgot who he was training, and I think he took one
Hmm.
of his fighters out or something like that, and then he had to go to jail. So of course, Pops came in and helped him out. Even
Yeah.
though Floyd at that time doesn't really he just needed somebody to like hold the mitts for him and keep him warm and sharp. And
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he already had. There's nothing left for Floyd to like learn. I mean, he learned them both from his uncle Roger and his dad. So
Yeah.
there was
Hmm.
nothing really left there. I mean, he's trained himself basically from then. It's just
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
that's up at
Hmm.
midnight and crack of dawn, doing
Yeah.
road work. That's
Yeah.
the
So
mentality of being the best.
when it comes to it, there was a little thing that was going on with which one was the better trainer. Was it Roger or was it Floyd Senior?
Defense
So
or the offense part of it, they always
well,
they labeled it that.
yeah,
They labeled it as his dad being the pure defensive fighter and Uncle Roger having the offense built in.
the offense, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I mean, for Roger Mayweather, man, I mean, he,
Mamba,
woo, yeah, he was something else. I mean, and I mean, he was a history buff, and uh,
of course,
the fact
totally.
that all the things that he was able to teach people, and especially his saying, most people don't know shit about boxing, and I think people still don't know what that means. And it means, do you know the history of boxing?
Right,
That's what he's saying.
right.
Do you know about the history of boxing? You guys are talking about this, but you don't know about Sugar Ray Robinson. You don't know about
Willie
Ezra
Pep,
Charles. Yeah,
yeah, Willie
you
Pep.
know,
Hmm.
yeah, Willie Pep, Montekia. I could go on and on
Tequila.
and on and name all these great fighters, whether they were African American or if they're Hispanic, and all different nationalities that people don't know about. Fighters that they just see what they see today, and that's it. They just come up with their own little narrative, and that's it. And it's like, one thing I tell people, I said, just remember something. Sugar Ray Robinson was doing the pull, that counter pull way before a lot of these other fighters were doing it. Okay, Muhammad Ali would do a counter pull.
Uh-huh.
I could go on and on and on. Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Lewis, and those guys, they will work off the shoulder roll. Every now and then. Georgie Benton, he was doing shoulder roll. This is way before Floyd Mayweather was around. And people, again, they don't know it. They only see just that
Now,
one
I mean,
point
it's
in
I
now.
of
That's it.
course, of course.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's generations, so I mean, that's what they
yeah,
see. They see Floyd in the shoulder roll. They see the pull counter that he does. I
yeah,
mean, honestly, the first time I saw a very good pull counter was the second Liston Ali fight, the Ghost Punch,
yeah,
which is a pull counter. It was a pull right.
yeah, yeah. Now,
So
yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
Since you said that, while this is on my mind,
Hmm.
okay,
Go ahead.
that ghost punch. A lot of people are saying
Hmm.
Muhammad Ali threw the ghost punch, and they were saying that
It was
Sonny
a
Liston
thrown
took it.
fight. Yeah,
Yeah, they said they listened through the
took it.
fight. It's
Yeah, it took
like,
a time. No, he
yeah,
got punched perfect.
exactly.
He
That's
got
exactly
punched
what I
perfect
saw
right on
when
the
I watched.
temple.
Yeah,
When you watch it in slow mo, you see Ali come back, and you see Liston come forward with everything
yeah,
he has, and
yeah,
just a quick right hand, perfect,
yeah,
dink,
yeah.
and he
Yeah.
went down. That was
That's
it.
yeah.
End of
And in
story.
fact, there was a joke Muhammad Ali would say. He said the reason why they didn't see it because they blinked at that moment.
All you guys in the crowd blinked
Yeah,
like this. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that.
And that was hilarious, man. I was like, wow, man, he was something else, man. And I
Was.
still look at tapes of Muhammad Ali, and I look back and I'm going, what a personality. I
Yeah,
mean, just
Totally.
what a personality that this guy was a type of person that he would go out there and be with the fans. He could have been with kings and queens and presidents and all that, but he
Mhm.
said no, the fans were more important. I don't know of any other boxer that's ever done that.
No, I mean, that's the reason why he is the greatest. I mean, he
Yeah,
crossed over almost every genre, every
yeah,
color line, every,
yeah.
he crossed over in so many different ways, different angles that you
Mhm.
can't deny him that he's not the greatest.
Yeah,
Is there anything
yeah,
in it that he did that was not great? And
yeah.
that's all I got to say. I mean, when
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I stop and think about it, and I'm going, man, this guy, man. I mean, he was just phenomenal in the ring and outside of the ring. You know,
carried
I
himself
mean,
well
just
in
and
and out.
yeah, and standing up for what he believed. He didn't believe in going to war. You know, people frowned upon that. Okay, well, but you got to remember too. Some people are telling you they don't. What they believe is, hey, they don't believe in killing. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
I mean,
Totally.
he's even told the referee, hey, you need to stop this fight because I'm not trying to kill a man inside the ring.
Hmm.
So he was showing a lot of mercy on people,
He was
and
carrying people,
yeah, yeah. So it was amazing. It was amazing to see this, and
As
it's
a
just
matter of
great.
fact, that's the first, fighter I've seen like wave the ref in.
Yeah,
He would wave the ref in, it's like, "Hey, man, please,
yeah,
I don't want to like kill this guy." And I was like, "Total sportsman, total
yeah.
sportsman."
Total sportsman. And again, all these things makes the sport that much better. It makes you want to watch it even more and more. Again, we don't see that type of sportsmanship now, in today's fighters. So the
It's all
question is
money.
even that is that even being taught by coaches today?
Yeah,
So
it's all money.
yeah,
It's a money game now.
yeah.
That's what's sad about it. I mean, passion for the sport is there. The science is still there. It's
Hmm.
just people would rather do something else to get the money.
Hmm. Yeah,
I get it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it too, but it's like, man, wow. I mean, I just wish that people could take a step back in time and just watch these fights. Like I said, I've seen Muhammad Ali fight, man. I'm like, man, never
Hmm.
seen anything like it. Nothing like him, nothing compared to him.
That moves like
You
that.
know, yeah.
That moves like
I
that.
mean, and I can even go to I can bring it up to a little bit later after Muhammad Ali. Let's look at Mildred Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. That first fight,
Hmm.
dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
That was a great
who
fight.
who who has put a performance on like that? I mean, those two fighters. I have not seen any other fighters, even in today's time, put on a fight like that, like Chavez.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now we got to talk different here. Okay.
Let's
Because
see. Let's see who you got.
Gaddy Ward.
Okay, I forgot about Gotti Ward.
You
Yeah,
got to say
yeah, that
Gaddy
was
Ward.
okay. That was a
The
war. Yeah,
trilogy, Gaddy Ward.
yeah, that was a
So
trilogy. Yeah, that was a good one.
that
Yeah,
was a
that
good
was
one.
good. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
when you talk about like fights that in the modern age, I think that's the only thing that came close. I think between
yeah, yeah.
who's going to be standing at the end. You didn't know.
Right. Yeah, that's like that the fight with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, the Thriller in Manila, and
Last
then the
one.
second fight the second fight that I thought that came close to the Thriller in Manila was the Chavez Taylor fight, the first one.
Hmm.
And I forgot about Gotti Ward.
Gaddy Ward.
I
That's
actually saw that
recently.
fight also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and then that came close to Taylor Chavez, Gotti Ward. You
Mm-hmm.
know. So
And it's
and they
funny
were don't get
because
me wrong.
those guys were not even like they weren't even champions. They were just
Right.
journeymen. They gave the
Right.
crowd exactly the blood and guts warriors. That's what they
Yeah.
Michael Buffer called them. And I'm like, yeah, they weren't champions. They weren't even in the top 10. They just like to scrap and
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
went at it, for three
Yeah.
three fights. They became good
Yeah.
friends after.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was crazy, man. That's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy, man.
The ninth round of the first fight, Gaddy Ward. Oh man, I I
Yeah,
I don't know how Gotti got up from that body shot because usually that left hook to the body is
yeah,
crippling.
yeah,
Especially Mickey Ward's left hook to the body.
yeah,
Chavez is
yeah,
left hook to the body. Gave
yeah,
Mildred Taylor.
yeah,
So I mean, for him to come back up and still finish the round, and wow, that was
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Most amazing fight.
and again, amazing. We don't see that. We don't see that anymore. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. There today's fights, there are some good fights, really, really good fights.
Mhm.
Um, but but when you've seen a lot of the people from Golden Era and stuff like that, is you tend to see you look at them and you tend to see the wind up comparing a little bit. You
Mhm.
know, and
Of
it's just
course.
like, okay, all right, okay, yeah, all right, I understand what you're saying, but you remember something? I'm a little bit older than you are, and I've seen a lot of stuff in boxing, you
Right.
know, and
I agree.
those are one of the things that I
Take
like to
pride in,
always
you know,
yeah
it's
take
like,
pride in,
okay.
and they let my young fighters know the same thing. Look, I'm around. I've been around.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just not I might look young, but I'm a lot older than you think. And it's like seeing these great fights, man. It was all inspiring, just to see it.
I
It's
just like the
amazing.
like
It's amazing.
let's see like part of the great fights, you know, you just see the story play out, you know, just to
Yeah.
see like, okay, the first round went to so and so, but you know, they score it round by round. But you know, it's like say somebody gets hurt in the third and they get
Hmm.
back up and they somehow hurt the other guy in like the sixth, and then you're going
Hmm.
at it, and then the next thing you know, it's the 12th round. You don't know who's gonna take it, and then somebody gets the KO, and then it's just like
Yeah.
total
Yeah.
like, geez, we were there to watch that whole thing. And
Yeah. Okay.
they don't
Well, you
have.
know what?
Hmm?
You know what I want to do? I want to let's come up to a little bit more modern in today's time.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about they call it Mike Tyson call him the Mexican Monster.
The Mexican
What do you
Monster.
think about that fight he had with um Boo Boo Andrades? I don't know.
Andradas? I don't know.
Andrades or Andres or something like that. What do you think of that fight when they fought?
I think it was a good fight. I mean, it was actually, I kind of like was siding for him at the time, but it's like he kind of won me over. So it's
Mhm.
like I don't really know how to say, you know, if it was a if I could compare it to like the older fights that we've talking
Mhm.
about. You know, it's like
Mhm.
something different about it. I don't know how'd you feel about it.
Well, I I was like, well, I actually thought that Boo Boo was going to give him a really, really good fight from what he was doing from rounds one, two, and a little bit of work that he did in rounds three. I was
Okay.
like, okay, wait, okay, this, Boo Boo's looking pretty good. But once Benavidez caught up with him,
Hmm.
oh, dude, that
Yeah.
yeah, he was ooh, ooh, ooh. And the thing about it is okay, Benavidez is not only is he young, he's big
It's
and he's
huge.
got a great defense that a lot of people don't know. Don't they look at this guy and they're just like, okay, this guy just come forward, he's this, he's that. But the guy can actually box.
Huge for the
You know what I
division,
mean?
and he could box. Got technical
Yeah,
skills.
and he can box,
He could
and
box.
you hear a lot of guys, ah, he ain't got this, he ain't got that. What are you talking about? Have you watched this guy fight? The guy is he's phenomenal.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean?
I agree.
You know,
It's
yeah,
won me over that
he's
way.
phenomenal. Now I don't know what's going to happen if him and Canelo meet. You know, that's
Hmm. I mean,
and
Canelo is still the big elephant in the room. I mean, it's like
yeah, yeah, he
everybody
is.
wants a piece of Canelo, but you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
figure that, you know, Canelo is he's already like in his prime right now. He's like what 32, 33, I think. It's like
I thought he was. Yeah, yeah. I thought he was
30
might have been like 34, but I could be wrong.
34.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he's like
yeah,
34. So you figure
yeah,
most boxers prime is, you know, 30, 33, 34. Unless you're
yeah,
Bernard Hopkins, you could take it all the way to like 40 something, you know. I mean, not everybody is disciplined
yeah,
as
yeah.
B Hop was. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true too. He's yeah, B Hop was amazing too. So I'm trying to picture that fight if that fight ever
with
happens between
Canelo,
Benavidez and Canelo. Yeah,
with
man,
Canelo,
that would be oh man, that would be something to see.
I agree. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
only
that
thing that's, I mean, a super fight that's close right now. I mean, well, that would
yeah,
be that fight.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, there's
no,
possible there's possibly one other one that with Canelo,
and
and I don't think it's ever going to happen. Crawford Canelo.
he's calling for him. I mean, Crawford was calling for him. At what
Yeah,
weight though? Is it going to be a 68?
Well, I don't. Well, wow, 68. I don't know.
Yeah, you see what I mean?
They
Is it
might
gonna
meet at a catch weight. I think. I don't think it might be at 54, maybe. But
Canelo hasn't been to 54 in over like a
yeah,
decade though, so
in a long time. So I mean, that would be a fight to watch. Also,
but I think Bud said that if he were, he was gonna take it up to 68.
wow, that's
He
man,
would take it to
that's
68 because, he was gonna do Charlo, but
yeah,
since Canelo beat Charlo, it's like he has no interest in Charlo anymore because Canelo beat him.
mhm,
So I think he
yeah,
wants to go up to 68 to take
mhm,
the
yeah,
4 pound for pound, right? I mean, that was his
yeah,
whole spiel. To take the
mhm,
undisputed from all the champions as he goes up in
yeah.
weight.
As he goes up in weight.
As he
You know
goes,
what? And since we brought that up, what do you think? What did you think? Did you see that fight between Charlo and Canelo?
yes, it did.
And what did you think?
I thought that, Charlo was gonna put a little more on him, but he didn't. I mean, something happened where he went into like defense mode. I don't know if he was hurt in training, but
Yeah, yeah. And I saw the same thing.
yeah,
You
because
know.
like after the second, third round, and then Canelo just took over, and it was just pure pressure. And I was like,
Hmm.
wow, okay,
Yeah.
put pressure on him, and there's nothing coming back. I was like, yeah, I thought at least Charlo was gonna try to, put hands on him in the mid rounds. I thought that was his whole thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
Canelo did something to nullify him, and he didn't
Yeah.
came gun shy after that. So,
Yeah. I'm wondering.
mm,
When I look back through the history of boxing that I have, in my head, and me being a former fighter.
right,
Um, I'm wondering if it was a conditioning thing with Charlo. And here's what I mean. Um, because back in the old days, when a fighter would pressure you like that,
right.
they threw combinations like crazy when a guy is pressuring you like that. And they were constantly moving. And they had that footwork that they was always moving and stuff like that. Although Charlo did that a little bit, but he was not throwing back a lot of punches. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, what's going on with Charlo? I mean, usually you see Charlo throwing a lot of punches, and he wasn't throwing a whole lot of punches when Canelo was just coming forward. You
But
know?
also Canelo he took a page out of like old George Foreman. Hit
Yeah,
everything, hit
yeah,
arms, hit everything you can hit when you're
yeah,
within punching range. And I think that's what happened. I don't know if that maybe changed his mind to go in survival mode. But, I mean, you had kind of
yeah,
expect that coming from Canelo. I mean, Canelo can box too, but he could also be a good pressure fighter. He could
yeah,
fight off
yeah,
the back
yeah,
foot and, he could
yeah,
counter, which he
yeah,
learned from Mayweather after,
yeah. And he
at a young
and he has
age.
great head movement.
I agree.
Great head movement that a lot of people underestimate when it comes to Canelo. His head movement and just his movement period is great.
His faint left hook to the body turns into an uppercut.
Yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean? And
yeah,
he
yeah.
always sets up that left hand with either a feint to the body or the head, and it's just like you don't know if
Hmm.
it's going to be an uppercut, if it's going to be a hook around the elbow, if it's going to be a hook upstairs. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what I see when I
yeah,
see Canelo. But he
yeah.
learned that he always had that, and he always had punching power for his
Yeah,
weight. I mean, he started at 54, and back then he was a power puncher at 54.
yeah,
I knew like
yeah.
the power was gonna go with him as he went up.
Mhm.
I didn't think he was gonna go up to like 75 like he did against Bivol.
Yeah,
I thought he was
yeah,
just gonna keep it at 68, and I don't think he should have ever jumped into the light heavyweight division, but
yeah. Yeah.
something
And
coaxed him.
the thing of it is that what is he about 5'9", maybe
He's
5'10"?
short for the division. I
Yeah,
mean, if you
for
jumped up
that
there.
division, he's really short. But we seen Mike Tyson, who was a heavyweight, who was short. But
5'11", yeah.
yeah, that was pure destruction with Mike, though.
Yeah.
So
He was
yeah,
trained as, to
yeah,
use it to his advantage. So Cuss was
yeah,
smart. He
yeah,
created a very exciting style for like Mike. And so when you look at his training regimen, you know how many squats he did before he even started boxing.
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah,
was all legs. When you look at
yeah.
his training regimen, it was all legs and, cardio and
Right.
straight protein and
Hmm.
speed. And then it got into the whole timing with
Yeah.
with the slip bags. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And see, and that's what I mean by the fighters don't train the way they did in the old days because Customato trained Mike like in the old days, and Mike, good
Cuss
lord,
was also like I mean, not just the physical part of it and creating the style and creating his punch number style. he was also like a very good mental coach because
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
would make Mike feel like a god by the time he hit inside the ring. I mean, he would
Yes.
always like say certain things to like trigger Mike to be like, "Oh, you're the best. Why are you even thinking that? Well, you should not
Right.
even worry about this." It's like that's nothing. You are a god. You're a champ. You train.
Right.
Imagine,
Hmm.
you're 12 years old and you're hearing this old man tell you you're a champ. You're going to be the
Yeah.
best in the world. You're going to be da 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 da. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm put on this earth to make sure that you're the champ. And
Right.
so he heard that. Starting after a while, you
And
start
yeah,
believing it.
and that must have given him some unbelievable confidence, you know.
For
So
sure.
it's amazing, man.
That
It's
is
amazing,
amazing,
man. I
because
love this sport of boxing.
how the mental like carries
Yeah.
over into the physical part, and I'm sure as being a fighter yourself, I mean, you heard this, like, okay,
Yes.
the physical part is like the fight is like 90%. The rest of it is like the training and mental part
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
you could
Hmm.
attribute that being in the ring. I've never been in the I mean, amateur. I've been ring amateur, but not even like close to being competitive. I mean, just
Right.
to
Hmm.
feel what it's like to spar.
Hmm.
I mean, that's as far as I got. But I mean, you stepped into the ring pro. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
different
You know,
story.
when you step inside that ring, okay, I'm just gonna go off of my experiences. Um, when I accepted the fight,
Hmm.
um, my whole mindset completely changed,
Has
because
to.
what happened
Has to.
was, I realized that I could be killed in that ring. And what that does is it puts a little bit of fear, and well, let me correct that. It puts fear inside of you. I'm not going to say a little bit, I'll be lying. It puts fear inside of you
Correct.
because you don't know what that next man has. You
Hmm.
don't know how good that next man is. And then when you step inside that ring, that moment is there, and that moment is going to continue going on until the end of the fight. And this is what people don't talk about.
Hmm.
um, what happens to the fighter when he steps into that ring? His mentality changes, and it is killed or be killed, or whatever I have to do to get you out of there. If that means I got to hit you in the eye and continue hitting you in the eye to get the referee to stop it, that is my job, And a lot of
Totally.
people
That's your
don't
job.
they don't think like that anymore. They just think I'm just gonna go in there, I'm gonna pull count, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
Mm.
Like, no, man, you realize that you could be killed inside that ring. It's still a dangerous, dangerous sport, you know. I mean, we see people getting hematomas and all kinds of injuries in these pugilistic sports, and it's like, man, it's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And you got to master yourself. You have to
Can't
master
imagine,
yourself.
the pressure that it is, like knowing that the other man across you is going to take your life. I mean, you're sitting there in
Yeah,
the ring. Of course, the pressure that, yeah, you could train all you can for it. And mental
yeah,
pressure is like, okay,
yeah,
knowing that they could just pull the button and then, you're pretty much wake up
yeah,
the next day.
yeah,
It's like one of those things that you don't want to do that. And plus the pressure from fighting in your own crowd, fighting in front of people,
right.
it's like
Hmm.
having all the eyes on you, knowing that this is the biggest spectacle that, you've been training for. And,
Yeah. Hmm.
but at the
Yeah.
same time, I could see like when you
Yeah.
win, it's nothing
Yeah.
like it,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So
nothing like the feeling. It's amazing. The other thing, and we could end it on this, is, the one thing that actually saved me as a fighter was the fact that my coaches taught me how to keep my hands up.
defense, right?
I see these fighters today, everybody's wanting to fight with their hands down and all this other stuff, and their defense is not there. And then they're wondering why they're getting hurt and they're getting knocked out. It's because your hands are not up. Get your hands up, you
Textbook,
know?
yeah, I totally
Yeah,
agree. I mean, the only reason why people fight with their hands down like that is they have a certain attribute. They have the speed
yeah,
attribute, they have the reflex attribute.
yeah,
Ali did
hmm,
it, and he did
yeah,
almost everything opposite the textbook.
yeah,
He could get away
hmm,
with it because of his natural ability. Roy did it
hmm,
too. Roy Jones Jr. also Captain Hook
yeah,
was the same way.
yeah.
He got
But
by on his physical speed
yeah,
and
yeah.
he could.
But you know what though? The talent pool between Roy Jones and Muhammad Ali was completely different compared to the fighters today. I mean, just way, way different. They were like
Yes, totally
night
different
and
from the
day.
fighters nowadays.
Yeah, yeah,
I agree because they're total different categories too. Because if you
yes,
look at
yes,
Ali, Ali was a rhythm fighter. He was a beautiful
yes,
rhythm fighter. I mean, he used
yeah,
it in his footwork. He danced. You know,
Yes.
he did his combos and danced away. Roy would do his
Yes.
combos on pure speed and then get
Yes.
out of the way. Pure
And
speed.
get out of the way. Yes. Yes.
Hit
So
and not get
it's just
hit, counter punch, master.
mhm,
I
yeah.
mean,
It, it's just amazing, man. Just this sport is just amazing, man. You know, it's amazing.
I'm
Well,
waiting for the
Theo,
next one to come back. You know, I mean, that's why I'm continuing to watch boxing. Is
yeah,
we're looking for that the golden
yeah,
era fighter. You know, we're
yeah,
looking for that
yeah.
old school fighter to come back. You know,
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I hope that I could be the coach to bring back that golden era. And because I'm not going to say what I'm teaching them, but all I'm going to say is I hope to be that coach to bring back that golden era, those golden era type fighters, bring them guys back
I hope
because
so too.
boxing needs them. They
Me too.
need those type of fighters now.
They do. They do.
So yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
brother,
All right,
I
man.
agree.
All right.
All right,
Hey,
brother.
well, let's just go ahead and leave that in closing,
Oh, for sure.
and we can just go ahead and just thank everybody that if you guys were watching it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Tony Prince, and I'm the host of Boxing Profiles, and my co-host here is Theo Arjona.
Hey
All right,
guys.
guys. You guys you guys stay tuned and look for a scheduled time that we'll be doing podcasts. We want you guys to be involved. We're hoping that you guys will come on and we can answer some questions and things like that for you. We could chop it up, and that's what boxing is all about. That's what Boxing Profiles is all about, chopping it up in this community. And we ask you guys that's out there to support the community by hitting the subscribe button. Okay. And Theo, you have anything else you want to say?
Oh, did you want to give them an email address so they could send you questions or send me a
Oh,
question? You know,
yes, yes,
yeah.
that is correct. Yes. Yes, you could send your questions or you could write your comments, right down on the YouTube page, or you could send it to boxingprofiles@gmail.com.
There you go.
Boxingprofiles@gmail.com. And Theo, I'll let you go ahead.
All right, buddy. That's all I got to say. I mean, I hope everyone tunes in, and I hope it becomes something that happens all the time. You know, we're going to try to
Yeah.
keep up this podcast, and
Yeah.
from there on, let's continue on.
Yeah,
Till the
that
next one,
sounds
buddy.
good. And remember something. Keep punching. Don't get punch drunk. Peace.